Welcome to the studio. I'm Keme Nzerem, and our panel with esteemed guests is State of the Nation, Cybersecurity in UK Business Today.
Big picture is we have a highly motivated, sophisticated adversary, which ranges from nation state through to script kiddie in the bedroom. That situation is not getting any better. It's perhaps getting worse or changing, with political and warfare, etc. But effectively, then you've got an organization and a corporate structure where security has typically been an afterthought. It's been fragmented. It's been technology-oriented rather than outcome-oriented. And so we're in a state of catching up, maturing our cyber defenses. And it's always a cat and mouse sort of game about how you get that one step ahead of the adversary to make sure you innovate one step ahead. Media-wise, headlines are made with state-sponsored espionage through politically motivated attacks, through coordinated, financially motivated attacks. That's not necessarily what the everyday CISO, CIO is protecting against. You've got to protect against that, but also you've got to protect about what sounds like mundane type of things, so insider threat through misconfigurations or poor hygiene in the environment, where all it takes is one little weakness in your armory, and they're in. And that can be a state-sponsored actor. It can be someone who's just got a grudge against the company. It could be an insider actor. It could be someone that's financially motivated. It could be a group. It could be a criminal gang. So it's a very wide-ranging, it's very specific to the context you face within both an organization, but also the industry and the ecosystem that you operate in today.
As I was listening to sort of the nature of the kind of threats that we were just sort of talking about, those things are often just incredibly sort of targeted. But actually, I think for most organizations, whatever industry you're in, so much of the threat comes from the unintended consequences of somebody doing something silly, sort of opening up a kind of rogue email or something and sort of introducing the kind of threat that way. It used to be that you'd just drive along with a big truck and get a satellite blocker and you'd be able to sort of, disrupt the kind of services just by that sort of almost physical kind of intervention. But now as everything's become incredibly, so much more kind of connected, it's moved away from traditional satellite distribution into much more kind of, broadband sort of led distribution, IP distribution. And so you've got to think about risk and how you manage that risk in a very, very different way.
What Elaine was saying was absolutely spot on. And it used to be the case that the hackers needed the broadcasters because they needed their audience to explain why they were doing what they were doing. And then, as you said, the technology changed and it's now more IP-led, and they've realised that they can just take the audience. And so we've got over 7,000 suppliers to Channel 4. We don't make our own content. We work with production companies to produce that content. And some of those companies can be two guys in a shed that are using free email and free business systems that don't necessarily have an understanding of IT security, and they don't have that skill set. Your biggest asset is going to be your staff. So for me, it's training and awareness. As many tools as I've got, whether or not I've got NIST, whether I've got ISO 27001, whether I'm green, and all those boxes are ticked and all my technical controls are there, if I haven't explained to people not to click that email or click that link,
and are people still clicking the link?
Do you know how sophisticated those emails are getting now? I struggle sometimes to work out if they're real or not. And of course, you've got the dreaded AI now.
How do you think AI is going to change, or is it changing the game in terms of cyber risk, Brian?
It's going to raise the game, absolutely. And it's unfortunate that we're in this situation, that we haven't learnt our lessons as a community from the past with other things. There's this race among the big tech giants to release it and to improve it and to get it out there without thinking about any of the consequences or the controls that need to be in place. It will do an awful lot of good. Every single company is looking at it straight away, thinking, how can we leverage this? How can we improve the way in which we're selling our products, improving our products so that we can use it to our advantage? The bad is going, how is this going to make our lives easier? I mean, don't forget, cybercrime is the third biggest economy in the world after, I think it's the US and China. Yeah, and yet how much budget does each company give towards their cybersecurity? How can they expect us to compete against that kind of stuff, particularly when the baddies have got things like AI and cloud and all that, you know, everything under their control, and they don't have any laws to have to follow. Whereas when we respond, we have to follow in the eye of the law.
The first thing I think about is kind of the data leakage aspect of it.
Yeah.
I heard an anecdote the other day, I don't actually know where it came from, but a kind of finance analyst preparing for annual results day used an AI website and put in all of the company's financial information yet to be released in order to come up with a great presentation. And they were doing, you know, they did a great job and they thought they were doing the right thing for the company. But they actually inputted the financial runs of the organisation into some AI software. That's the kind of bit that starts to, the first step of what I'm worried about. But I think that's the kind of thing we probably have most of the tools we need to prevent most of that happening now. We just need to adapt our thinking and adapt some of the tooling that we already have to make sure that we kind of close that door. We've got to try and find a way of making this everyone's problem.
Yeah, sure.
I think there is a danger in some of the organisations that I've worked in that it's because there's an IT security team and there's a CISO,
they look after
they'll sort it out.
Yeah.
And of course, to some extent, that is true. But particularly in a technology organisation, and ideally more widely with the likes of phishing going on, but specifically in technology, got to feel as though this is a priority, this is important, we're all prioritising this, we all understand the risks, and we all play a part in mitigating those risks.
I think one of the qualities or attributes of CISOs is this kind of almost relentless kind of curiosity. And I think with that, it drives you to look for the upside and for the downside of any of those kind of emerging techs. We're just going to have to get quicker and slightly sort of smarter about it. But I think one of the things it will do is it will drive industry to work, again, much more collaboratively. I think cyber is one of those very unique parts of tech where everybody really needs to kind of pull together and share learning and knowledge as to how you solve for what can be these sort of devastating kind of cyber events.
Food for thought for colleagues watching, for everyone watching live, and for anyone interested in the topic. This is The Studio. Thanks for watching.